This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so hi everyone. So before starting, so let's quickly recap the things that we have covered yesterday and previous classes. So we have learned what is Hadoop, okay, and what is big data, and so we have seen how to do a single node instance, and we did a Cloudera Manager installation using Cloudera Manager installer binary executable. Then with the help of Cloudera Manager web UI, we deployed a Cloudera cluster, and we have learned little bit about HDFS. So what is HDFS, and how this file system is different from other file system, and how this is working, and how to upload a file, and how these files are splitted into various blocks, and so default block size we have seen, and what is the replication factor, and how the block are getting replicated to various worker hosts, and where this snapshot is saved. So mainly FS image and edit files, and actual data blocks where these blocks are located, and what is about checkpointing, all those things, and also what are the various components in HDFS, like a data node, name node, and we have a secondary name node. And also we did the installation of Active Directory, which is nothing but a directory service, that is LDAP service, that provide that LDAP, and which we can use for authentication, like wherever we need to pass username and password, we can make use of this Active Directory service, and various Hadoop ecosystem components can be integrated with this Active Directory service. Actually, Active Directory is the service which is running on any Windows server, and we have seen the installation of Active Directory, how to deploy it. It's very easy and straightforward. So post to that, so we integrated various Linux, or in our case, it's a CentOS 7. So CentOS 7 and AD integration we have seen, so that whenever we create a user here in AD, the same user we can use in our CentOS machine. So this integration also very easy and straightforward. Only thing is we need to install few RPM, and then I think 2 or 3 steps only we need to do for that integration. And in real-time production scenario, so mainly we'll make use of Active Directory for authentication. Also the Kerberos, that is the extra security, for that also people use Active Directory. And we have a working single node, and in this cluster we have everything installed on that single host itself. Actually that is not the ideal case, and that is used only for testing or evaluation purpose. So when we move to the production type of deployment, so we will be using a different approach, and we will be covering that today. Okay. Okay. So before uh, okay, so we will do the multi-node installation. And multi-node installations, we are planning to install multiple hosts. And here in this installation, I'm using uh, 3 masters, or I can say or two master or three, whatever it may be. So 3 masters I can use, and 3 workers. Okay, so master or management host. I call it as management host because I need Cloudera manager to be installed. So worker mainly I will be installing only worker components. So there are worker components are mainly like data nodes and yarn worker component, that is called a node manager. Okay, I will explain what is yarn and what are the various components later. So we have seen like HDFS and yarn. So HDFS is for storage purpose and the yarn is for computational purpose. And uh, okay, and we have 3 masters or management host we call. So sometimes people use the term master and another machine for management node. Management node is in the sense like so we install Cloudera manager server in one host, then HDFS a name node in one node, secondary name node in another host, like that. There are a lot of components that you follows master slave pattern. So the master, whatever the master components we will be installing here on the master, and whatever the worker component that we will be installing on these workers. Okay, and so total we need 3 plus 3, 6 hosts, and the 3 host I think we can do with I think all these hosts we can do with 8 gig RAM. Okay, so this is just an average configuration, and 4 or 8 CPU. Okay, 4 or 8 is fine. So this is the average configuration I'm using, and from each worker host, so I can have an extra disk, but here we are not dealing with much additional disk up thing. So I'm just using the 50 gig alone. So for the master as well as worker also. So if you need, I mean, so if you are planning to do with a lot of data, definitely we need to have more space allocated. So as a first step, so we need to deploy the VM. So that is the step one, is the deployment of VM. And if you go to the step two, that is configure all the prerequisites. Then configure local repository. Then the third step is install Cloudera Manager server. Then we can install agent also. And fifth is like once we have the Cloudera Manager, continue installation using Cloudera Manager web interface. Okay, on a very high level. So these are the things that we are going to do here now. So first step, so we need to deploy 6 Linux machines. So 3 for master and the 3 for workers. So if you have the like requirement for more workers, yes, definitely we can have. So but this is the like design minimum configuration that I can explain all the features. Okay, and I'm choosing like 8 gig RAM. So this is the memory capacity. Maybe I may need to, so like sometimes because of the memory, so some of the services are not starting, then I may need to increase this memory. But initially, I'm just going ahead with the 8 gig, and 50 gig is the hard disk capacity. That's when I need, because I'm not going to add much more data here. So once we have deployed the VM, so definitely we need to go through the prerequisites. So this prerequisites has to do across all the hosts, and local repository configuration, we are doing it for Cloudera Manager and this CDH parcel. Okay, so these two repositories we need to create, but this is only on single host only. We use this configuration. All other hosts can use the repository from that host. Then once this is done, we can go ahead and install Cloudera Manager server. And again, so this installation, manual installation, we follows a different approach. So we manually install this thing. So we are not going to use Cloudera Manager installer package here. And also the agent also we can install and configure, so that we need not to make use of this Cloudera Manager to do that. Or else if you have more hosts, then better you can do with Cloudera Manager wizard also. Otherwise, you can do with the agent, because with the Cloudera Manager, we did the agent installation in this single node setup. I think you are already familiar. So we need to have a user, then passwordless sudo enable, and then we need the private key. But here I'm doing everything in a manual way. Then once that is done, we will continue the installation with the Cloudera Manager UI. So first thing first, we will go ahead and deploy this VM. So go to the launch instance wizard and go to the community AMI. Search here CentOS 7.5 something. So you can choose. In my case, I already have one VM image which I already tested. I think for CentOS 7. So this is the VM image which I already tested. Okay, and I can search that here. Okay. So this is basically a CentOS 7.4 image. Just hit that, and I'm choosing T2 large, which is nothing but 2 V core and 8 gig RAM memory. And also, if you go to higher end, the pricing also differs. Okay, so there will be a slight deviation on the price based on the configuration. And then we will go ahead and hit configure instance detail. So how many instance we need? So I need a 6, like 3 master and 3 worker. And okay, that is fine. And it's choosing the network subnet everything as default, and adding storage. So I'm just adding as 50 gig, and volume type can change it to magnetic or SSD. So SSD will give you much better performance compared to the magnetic, but the cost wise, the magnetic is cheaper. And delete on termination, make sure like if you delete this virtual machine, so this associated hard disk also will get deleted. Then adding tag, just add that tag. I'm just using purpose as Cloudera HadoopAdmin training. Just configure security group. So here I already have that security group created. So training Cloudera, but again, it's a wide open one. All ports are open. Just go ahead and review and launch. We can view the details here. I'm just hitting the launch. And the key pair, you can see we already have the key pair created, so no need to create it again. So I'm just using training Cloudera. Otherwise, you can create a new key pair, write it down, and download that, convert that to PPK file if you are using Putty. Otherwise, just existing key pair, use that and hit this, and then launch. So go to the view instance option. You can see here. So this instance are getting deployed. So I already have some more VM instance, so that is the reason. So it's showing others also, no problem. I'm just adding some name here, so like training master. So this is just a name in AWS to identify our machine. Okay, just training master 1, and here training master 2, and training master 3, and this is training worker 1, and this is training worker 2, and training. Okay, so these are the hosts. So we have total 6 hosts deployed. So master 1, master 2, master 3, worker 1, worker 2, worker 3. These are the 3 hosts we already deployed. Okay, so now we need to connect these VMs, and for that we need to collect this public IP address. Just so select one of the hosts and use that public IP. Just to refresh this, because this initialization has to complete. I think most probably after that only we would be able to connect. So that is fine. Let me try connect that. And this IP, go to the SSH auth, use that key. So HD user Cloudera at training. I don't know in here. Cloudera at training. Is this the key or yes? So this is the key that we used. One host we already connected, and so this is the master one, and we will connect a master 2 also. Use this. Open the putty. So new session, IP, SSH, auth, browse, and go to this new one. Then open. Once prompted, hit yes. Use the username as CentOS, but in your case, the user may be name be different. It all depends on the type of image you are using. So this one, go ahead and get this public IP address. Then new session, choose this IP address, SSH, auth, then browse, new key, just open. Take the username as CentOS, and then go to the worker one, get this public IP address. Then worker 2, get that IP address. Then new session, then choose this SSH auth, yes. Then the last one, that is training worker 3, just get that IP address also. Then new session, this one, SSH auth, then browse, just open, hit yes, CentOS. Okay, so now let me increase this font size a little bit. Appearance, colors, and also I'm going to use the system color. We'll do this one by one. So change settings, appearance, use that color, use the system color. Okay, so now I've connected all the incenses. So this is the master one and master two, master three, etc. And we can directly go ahead and do those things, but I don't feel like this name is not good and all. So I'm just going to change this name. Otherwise, for us, it's very easy to identify which is master one, which is master two, etc. So I'm just first I'm going to make these changes like all the prerequisites plus host name changing. So I already noted down those things. So I need to do these things on all the host and add some name. So this is the master one, right? But then okay, sorry, I need to switch to root user everywhere. Okay, switch to root user here also.
Hi, Sudesh. This is Prashant that just joined. Just wanted to check that are we, so I'm on the same page. Are we building a cluster then?
Yes, yes. So
All
we
right,
are
thank you.
building a multi-node cluster. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So first, here I'm just started the prerequisites. First, I deployed all these 6 hosts. So we are planning to do 3 master and 3 worker. And the deployment portion, and then the first part is completed. And we're going to do all the prerequisites. Then we'll do the local repo configuration also. So the prerequisite part, first thing I'm just changing the host name. So, but if you are doing it for an enterprise level, so your host and all have a proper naming convention, and all those names might be already added into DNS. So you may not do all these things, especially the changing the host name. Also, if you want to make any changes at the host name level, definitely you'll have to communicate with the Linux team. So they will do it for you. So most of the time there will be a separate team for that. But so this is completely under our control, and we are just changing this host name. The reason is we the default host name and all we don't like, so that is the reason we are just changing these host names here. And this is master one and master two, and this is master three, and this is worker one, and this is worker two, and this is worker three. Right. And so we have a few more prerequisites like the firewall have to be disabled. I don't know, like, sorry. So this, if the firewall service is not installed, so we need not to do anything. So let's first check on this first machine. So the firewall is not there. So definitely other instance also, it won't be there. So I'm not doing anything here, but if you are doing a system with the firewall installed, so you need to disable. And also if you are doing in a production environment, communicate with your Linux team or networking team too, and do it. So sometimes they may not be okay to do this change, but in that case we need to identify the ports If you go to the Cloudera documentation, so that will give you the complete details. Okay, what are the plots? So if you for host name naming convention, it's all depends on the organization's policy, and from our side we don't have any restrictions, so any host name is fine with that. I mean, even this default host is also okay for us. Technically that is okay, but for us to identify the machine and to show it in different name like master 1, master 2, like that, so that is the reason I changed. Yeah, worker mean the slave host, where we are installing all the slave components like data nodes or a node manager, etc. And the master or management node, we will be installing master components and the management tools like Cloudera Manager, server, etc. And so okay, so this firewall, so we need not to do this. And VM swappiness. So this open this file and add VM swappiness equal to 10. So just copy this line and go to the one host. Just open this and then I for insert, come to the end, then add this line. So basically in this file, we'll have to add this line vm.swappiness equal to 10, right? Save it. But if you want to do in a faster way, you can just do this echo VM swappiness, just redirect. Don't use a single arrow. Single arrow means it will overwrite the content here, and use the file. So this will do this for us. Like so in this file, you can see that line is appended. So we can just use this single line to do that VM swappiness. So VM swappiness, we have covered that. So it will tell when to use virtual memory. Like 10 means when 90% of physical memory is full, then only it start using. So if you increase the value means, I mean the sooner this start using. If I use 0 means it will try to use the virtual memory at the end. Okay, so we will do this, and this one is okay, and here also. I don't think. Okay, so VM swappiness we have added here, and etc sysctl.conf. Okay, so that part is done. Now, so I need to open this file etc sclinux config and change that sclinux to disable. So /etc sclinux config, and this enforcing I have to change it to disable. So this thing I can do with a single line script like this. So I said is the command I can make use of that, and so that I can do it in a single. So it's basically just checking SE Linux enforcing is there. If that is there, then that will replace that SE Linux equal to disabled, and that will update in this file. That is the reason we use -i flag, and use this and do it across all the hosts. Okay, so this is done here, and this is also, no, this is not done. Okay, and what is next? So we need to install and enable NTP and start. So that we will be doing across all the hosts. Okay, I'm just installing and starting and turning off or turning on this NTP. So NTP, like I said, it's a network time protocol that is used to synchronize the time. And on etc.rc.local, I need these entries so that THP will be disabled. So I'm just copying and executing this command along. Okay, so now if you just see /etc rc.local, you can see this one. So this will get executed and this THP will be disabled. And here also I'm just executing. That's it. And now we will have to get this private IP address and host name and update the complete set of etc host. And we will take that private IP one by one. So go to the master and get the master one. So this is the master one. Let me open a notepad, and this is the master one, right? And we will take it for master 2, and that private IP is this one. And for master 3, private IP is this one. And for worker 1, the private IP is this one. And worker 2, this is the IP address. And worker 3, this is the IP address. And note down, I use the private IP, not the public IP. So the private IP you can get from typing ifconfig command also. So this is 208. Okay. So and so we will just add that names here, like master1 dot hadoop.com, and the short name as master1, then master2 dot hadoop.com, master2, and master3, and this is worker1 dot okay. So this line, copy this entire paragraph, and I'll be adding it on all the hosts. So open etc/etc/host, like I said earlier. So you need not to do this thing if your DNS entry is updated. So in our case, we are not relying on any of this DNS service. So manually updating in etc host. Just save this. Okay, and here also. Okay, so all IP. So if I update that, I should be able to ping master1 or ping master2 like that. Okay. And next thing, I'm just taking one of the machine. So for example, master1 as my repository server, and I'm using HTTP as my repository file sharing tool. So I have to install HTTPD. Sorry, HTTPD. Okay, and just have to systemctl enable HTTPD, so that next reboot onwards, the service will be up and running. So once this is done, I can go ahead and restart. But before that, I'm just going to download these couple of files for this. Okay. So for that, first go to archive.cloudera.com and go to CM5. So Cloudera Manager 5. And earlier we used the installer and we use like so this single binary file. And but instead of installer, just to go ahead and hit on repo as tarball. Just hit that, and you can see various versions. Okay, so 5.14, 5.13, whatever the version you need. Okay, we will use some lower version 5.13, and later we can do upgrade. And here you can see a lot of tar gz file and md5 file. So what you need to do is this tar gz file, which is matching with our operating system. So this is for CentOS or RHEL5, and this is for RHEL6, and this is the one for RHEL7. Just copy that and download that. And I'm just downloading, but I don't have wget. Just go ahead and go ahead and install yum install wget. Okay. So wget is just a command that helps us to download from this repository. And most of the time, so we may not be doing able to do this wget, because we are assuming like in that case our server may not have direct internet download access. So in that case, what we will do, so we download that package into our local desktop. So like here we can do like save as option. Okay, so save link as, that will download into our local directory. So once that is done, we can use WinSCP or some tool to move that or copy that files to this server. But I have internet bandwidth or internet download access, so that is the reason I'm just downloading here this file.
So yes, can I stop you there for a quick discussion, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So in production environment, right? As you rightly mentioned, that we don't get production, internet access, right? And most of the time, I have seen the people, have their built yum repository. I think
Yes.
this is one of the features. I think people use it very often, and I was expecting something similar. Probably you should do as well.
Yeah, that is what I'm going to do. Okay, so that is what we need to download this. And
Yeah.
if you don't have the internet access, we can download it into your local directory and move that file to this machine. Okay, so we are not reached there that stage. So we will discuss that when we go further. Like once we will uncompress and create that repository. Okay, and
So that will be master server, yeah.
not only the master server, we can have it on any server which is accessible in this network. So
Yeah,
sometimes there will be a separate repository server configured. So sometimes in an enterprise they will have a separate satellite server configured. So we will hand over this repository location and details to them. So they will create that. Okay. But since we don't have any separate dedicated server, we are making use of one of the server as a repository server. So that is the reason we just install HTTP. Okay.
All right, thank you.
And only thing is we just need this file. Okay, so this tar gz, which is matching with our operating system. So maybe if we are using CentOS 6, we can download the CentOS 6 file tarball and to make use of that. So we will be configuring that local repository soon. But in real enterprise, some people we can see like they are using their own local Hadoop repository in their local network, or sometimes so they will be using some satellite server kind of thing. So entire Unix team is managing that. We will just give this file URL to them, and they will deploy that. Okay, so let me try to answer a couple of questions. How users developers connect to the machines using what if they see? No, that is a very good question. So how user connect in a real time scenario? So like I said, so in this case we have got masters. Like here we use 3 master, so we may have a 3 or 4 a number of so 3 or 4 master or management nodes. Okay, so in our case I just use 3. Okay, so we call this as master or management server, and also we will have workers. So this is like more workers, and all these are connected together through some networking. So that means every host should be able to connect with the other host in this thing. So this entire thing we call as Hadoop cluster. But so as an administrator, so we definitely have access to all the servers like worker. So can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah, I can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
right. Yeah, thanks for confirming. And so we have this thing like we have a number of whatever the masters, maybe master 1, master 2, master 3, sometimes even with a single master also fine, 2 master, 3 master, or 4 master and management. So sometimes people use the term master or management term in an interchanging way and also use that, but sometimes people use the master separately and management separately, but we will use as some sort of higher end machine here. And here we use like normal, but still we use higher end, but we people say like commodity hardware, but not commodity hardware. Like we use some sort of uh, decent configuration here. But for developers to connect, we don't give the direct access to this FOTI access to these machines. So instead, we will have a separate lower end VM or lower end machine, so that we call the edge host. Okay, edge host won't have any services running, but all the executables will be there. So this is also part of the cluster, but there won't be any daemon running on this. So normally all the developers and all will be connecting to this edge host, and they submit the job on edge host. So edge host will have all the executables, libraries, and everything that all other hosts, but no services. Services or daemon, I mean to say, like so here we have a name node service running, right? Here we have data node. So like that, there won't be any services running, but only that executables and the jar files will be there. So this is how the developers connect. And sometimes you can see like if that organization is not having much budget, and also they will give the direct access to this name node or any of this node to the developers, and developers connect there. But that is very rare. So most of the time, so they will have edge node. So we can have multiple edge node also, so that if this goes down, still they have access to the other one. The DevOps thing, like so you can use like so this is since this is a complete manual process, you can make use of any of the DevOps tools here to automate this. But so this time, so we will just see how this works. But we can use the DevOps tool, or even with the shell script itself, we can use to do all this configuration. And why we use the third master means we may not be able to accommodate all those things. So technically, just one master is fine. Like, but we are adding different components like primary and standby. Maybe we have Cloudera manager host also. Maybe we can rename it to management host or something. So let's go ahead and configure that repository. So what I have done is I just downloaded this tarball. Okay, so this is Cloudera Manager tarball, and once this is downloaded, or you can download directly, or you can just download and transfer to here. Just uncompress this tar zxvf. You can make use of this command. So setx means, so that is a flag we used for gz file, and v verbose output, and this will uncompress this file, and capital C. If I just press enter, it will uncompress in the same directory. So if I just use -c flag, so we can specify the location /var www.html. So this is the default HTTP directory. Okay, and if I just hit enter, so this will be unzipped into a directory under this directory. Just hit enter. Okay, so now if I go to this directory rw, you can see one directory with the cm, and this is L repository file, I mean repo file. So you can see under that 513, so that is a repositories, like under repo data, and or RPMs. So you can see a lot of RPMs available. So RPM is nothing but the Linux packages. So it's all bundled together and configured as a repository. What we did, we just downloaded that and unzipped into this location, and whatever the subdirectories it followed its own standard. So that's the only thing we need to do, and we can make sure like this repository is working fine. So go to the master one and get this public IP address. Okay, and here I'm just using HTTP that public IP address. Okay, so we need to make sure like HTTPD service is running, systemctl status. So this is not running. Let's start the service. Then we check the status, it's running. Now if you open a browser and use the public IP of this machine, you can see one test page. So this is the Apache test page, and which is running on this host. For that testing purpose, you need to use this public IP. But if you are inside the same network, you can use the private IP, but that won't work here. And also, so this is the default page. Like so under default home, we have a directory, right? CM. If you just hit CM, you can see whatever the files you are able to see here under CM ls/var www.html cm. See, repo data generated RPM. So all these files are there, right? So this is the one, and you have to go until you find a directory called repo data. Get this, copy this, and we will note it down somewhere else. Okay, and so this is Cloudera Manager repo location. Okay, but when we do locally communication and all, so instead of public IP address, better use the private host name or private IP. So just use this one, because my public IP will change tomorrow or even after some time. If I reboot, this may or may not change. So it's better to use this private one. That's about Cloudera Manager local repository. And one more is there, CDH. For CDH also, we can create a local parcel repo. Okay, sorry, not this, archive.cloudera.com, and use CDH file, and we have option parcels, and I'm just using 5.13.0 itself. So where is that? Yeah, go here. So, and mainly two files you need, parcel and manifest JSON. So just use this one, copy link. I'm just downloading it into the main my directory here, wget. See this manifest JSON, and similarly for RHL7, what is the parcel? So this is the parcel file for RHL7. Copy link, then use this wget and use that. Okay, so that is done. So this parcel file, okay, so manifest JSON and this parcel file, so we can create a directory. So this into a new location under mkdir, or I can go to var www.html, and here I'm just creating a directory called parcels. Okay, and to go inside this parcel, and I'm just creating cdh 5.13.0, right? So this is cdh 5.13.0 directory, and so this is the location. So I will be moving my files to this location. So this parcel and manifest JSON. I can use the move command to move, or copy also will do, but I don't want to keep these files to this location. I'm just moving that to this location. Also this manifest JSON also, and under this directory. That's it. Now if I do parcels here from the master's IP address, just slash parcels, I can see here, just hit enter. 513. Okay, so let's copy this URL. I don't know, this is the standard behavior. Let me check that. We will sort it out later. But this is the location of our parcel. Okay, so these two location, CDH location, and we have a CM Cloud RAM Manager location. So once we have these two in place, so let's go ahead and create this local repository for that. So for that, go to etc yum.repos.d. So this is the directory in Red Hat. So this is the directory that contain repo file. So repo files are basically the file that contain the list of repository URLs or repository location. So basically, when you do yum install command, So it will check these files and what are the URLs available here, and it will fetch that RPM package from that location and do the installation. So that is how yum install works. So for Cloudera Manager package, so we just unzip that into www.html.cm, and we are just adding a file with the .repo extension, and we are telling this to use that for Cloudera Manager. So for that, just write one file, Cloudera Manager.repo. Okay, and the first line you need to use within the square bracket, write some section name, Cloudera Manager, whatever the and name, just write 5.13.0 and base URL. That is the location where we hosted this file. This is the one. Just use that. Right. Sorry. Use this. And there is an option like GPG check. We can just turn it off. GPG check will check the integrity of packages that is available here. So we are 100% sure this is okay, so no problem. Otherwise, if we are just enabling, so 0 means GPG check disabling. If we are enabling GPG check, then in that case, we need to specify one more file called this GPG file. So there is one more argument you need to use, like that is the GPG key that equal to this location's URL. But I'm not using that, so we can just disable that. And the same file I need to be updated across all the hosts. So now if I do this, I can just clean the cache and yum make cache. So it will create a new cache, and you can see, so this is trying to update this Cloudera Manager. Yum repo list, it will show the repository, so that is Cloudera Manager, and how much packages are available. So that means this is okay, and it's we are able to use this package. So now what I'm going to do is just do this and add it across all the hosts. So for go to the each and every machine, add this line vi /etc uh, yum.repos.d, just Cloudera manager.repo, just add this line, then save it. Let me check what is the time. Okay, 40 minutes. Then go to here /etc add it here, /etc yum.repos.d Cloudera manager repo, add this line, and the last one, go to this one etc yum.repos.d. Okay, so now so I have configured this local repository, and also I can just do yum clean all everywhere, and yum make. So these two commands I can execute in a single line itself. So that means these two will be executed one by one. So clearing the yum cache and building a new cache. So all these hosts are able to communicate with the repository that we have configured here on master 1, and we will be using this repo for the installation of Cloudera Manager. So repo is basically we have a file called .repo file under etc mRepos directory, and this is the Red Hat's feature while configuring the local repository, and we use some file. Okay, so here I added Cloudera Manager.repo file that contain the list of URLs where our packages are located. So maybe this is all for different Linux distribution packages. Similarly, for Cloudera also, we just created one file, and that file looks like this. Just a base URL, name, and GPG check. And base URL tells the location where we have these files unzipped and kept. So now, before continuing the installation, I can just go ahead and reboot all the system, because once we have done all the prerequisites and configuration, and we need to do a reboot. Let me do that. Okay. So this is also done. And the last one, right. So I'm just taking a 5 minutes break. By that time, the system will be up and running, and we will continue the installation after that. Okay, so let's continue. I hope everyone is in line. Okay, so let's connect back these servers. So it's all restarted. Just go ahead and hit this restart session and use this CentOS and use sudo su, and now we are in the master one, and similarly connect the remaining host. First restart session CentOS and use the sudo master2 and just restart session CentOS master3, and here just restart CentOS and worker1, and this should be worker2, and the last should be worker3. Sorry. So now into worker2 and the last one, that is worker3. Now we have connected to all these hosts, and I'm going to install Cloudera Manager services manually. Okay, use yum install to do that. So it's a first step. So identify the machine where we are installing Cloudera Manager. I'm just going to install Cloudera Manager here. So just like yum repo list and just grep with the Cloudera, and sorry, I think okay, so not yum repo, yum list all grep Cloudera. So yum list all will list all the packages that is available in the configured yum, including Cloudera. I'm just filtering only the Cloudera packages, and you can see the Cloudera Manager agent, daemon, server, server DB, and Oracle JDK, J2SDK. Okay, and we are manually doing this installation of these packages. So in previous installation of using Cloudera Manager installer, that was doing all this installation, including the DB. So this DB is the default database that will be making use of for everything. So this will install and configure a Postgres DB. So that will give the database services for most of the components that we use, including Cloudera Manager, Hive, then other Cloudera management services, everything it use. But it's not secure to use this one because the password everyone knows, and also we can do a customized DB and use that for Cloudera Manager or whatever the services we use. So we are not going to do the installation of server DB database, but other components. Okay, Oracle J2SDK and Cloudera Manager server, we are just doing the installation, and agent and daemon. So agent and daemon, we need to install it on all the hosts. Okay, but the master machine also agent is needed. Like I said, so the Cloudera Manager agent should be there, including the Cloudera Manager server machine also. So these are the packages we need to install. Just hit enter. So that will do the installation of Cloudera Manager server as well as agent packages. While this is getting installed, so let's go to the other host and install the packages for agent component. Just I don't remember that. What are the packages we need? So this is agent and daemon. So yum -y install So if I use -y, it won't ask this yes or no question. By default, it will take as yes. So I'm just installing this agent and daemon. Okay, so just use this. That's it. So we'll do the same across all the worker host or worker or whatever the master or whatever it may be, because agent service should be there in all the hosts including master. But in master, so we did additional components. Oh, sorry. So we need Java also, all the hosts. I missed that. Okay. So not only agent and daemon, we need the Java package also. So this Java, I think is /user Java under, you can see this package is installed. Okay. So that is because of this command. Okay. So once this is completed, so we definitely need to install that Java also. Okay, so just install this Java package also. Okay. Now I install these components on this master, like Oracle J2 SDK, then Cloudera Manager Server, and the daemon and agent. So on all the hosts, I just install J2 SDK, daemon, and agent. So the next is I need to set up a local database for that. For that, I need to install MySQL. I'm just planning to use MySQL. So let me just do on this set of commands to do the MySQL installation. Okay, so I'll just share this in the link and chat. You can also do bookmark this page. So unlike RHEL 6, if you do yum install, it will not install this MySQL properly, but it will do MariaDB. So what I'm going to do is just executing this step and downloading this RPM, and then I'm just installing that RPM and installing. So then yum-y install MySQL-server. Okay, so this will install a MySQL DB. Okay, then I can just use systemctl enable MySQL D, and I'll just start MySQL D. So once this is started, let's check the status, and I can see MySQL D is running. And I can just connect this MySQL -u root, then without password, we would be able to connect. But this is not secure, so we need to set up a password. So for that, there is a hardening script, that is MySQL _secure installation. So this script will set initial root password and do some sort of hardening, like security improvement. Current password, just type enter. Setting the password, yes, we will type the password for this root user for Cloudera. Sorry, for this MySQL. Just remove, yes, disallow, yes. Okay, and now if I use MySQL -u root, then -p, then once prompting it, I can type whatever the password which I set. So we have just set the password here, and I need to create a temporary user which is having a super user privilege on this. Okay, so for that, what I can use here is okay, I can add two steps. One is create user, or this step. If I do this step, it will create the user and grant full privilege. So that is same as like a create user, and what is the username? TMP. That is a username. We use at percentage to identify. Otherwise, we are not sure like what string it's used to connect. If I use at percentage, like temp at local host will work, temp at master one, temp at whatever the IP, so that is also work. Then we use identified by, then what is the password? We can just use a password here like a TMP or whatever the password, or just password, and grant all privileges on star to temp with the grant option. With the grant option means it should be able to create another users and assign privileges to that. So these two steps, okay, so basically that we can do in a single command itself. Grant all on star.store means everything in our database to this user. Identified by temp means what is the password, and with the grant option, that is same as creating a user and with identified option, and granting all privileges on star.star to this user with the grant option. So either one will work. Okay, let's, whichever is convenient for you, you can do that. So here what we need is basically we need to create a user in DB which is having a super user privilege and with the grant option. That means this user should be able to create other user also, and go to this one and do that. So now we created a user temp, and which is having full privilege, and its password is temp. If you want to use that, because so we will be using this temp for a short term purpose, just for the Cloudera manager to use. Next step, so we need to install this driver jar. Okay, JDBC driver for MySQL. So there are two options. One is we can just use yum-y install this one MySQL connector Java. I don't, yeah. So this will my yum install MySQL connector Java. So this will install package and dependent package. And if you see like just use find slash name, I don't remember, star MySQL star, it's basically a jar file. Okay, so that is used for connecting a Java program with MySQL database. So every database will have a driver jar file associated. So similarly, MySQL also. So this file you can do with this step, MySQL connector Java yum install. I just use the star because I was not sure about that name. And this will install this RPM, and that will provide this connector jar file. So this driver jar file missing may lead to database connection issue. And the same one, like the proper one, you can download to MySQL website, and you can download it. So MySQL connector driver jar. So the recommended option is to download from here. So rather than using from this RPM, because the RPM will unnecessarily install and upgrade a lot of other package. But this is easy for us to do is yum install, and I did that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I created a user temp and a temp, and which is had full access. So now I'm trying to prepare this database using this script /user under /user share schema. So this is one script that we normally use for setting up the database. So this is under /user share cmf schema prepare.sh. Then we use what is the type of DB that we use, MySQL, and what is the host. Okay, MySQL is the DB that we are going to configure for Cloudera Manager. So the host name is master1.hadoop.com, and -u username is temp-p, that is also temp. Then we have another options, like a few more options, like SCCM under host. Sorry, //SCCM host. Then SCCM host means the host where we have installed the Cloudera Manager service, that is this host. And what is the username for that we are going to create for Cloudera Manager, and what is the database, and what is its password. I think that's it we need to do. Okay, so just understand, so there is a custom script for configuring database. So if you are using Postgres as database for your Cloudera Manager, use this Postgres. So here I'm using a Cloudera, MySQL, and on which server, and what is the username and password for that user. And this is the Cloudera Manager host name, and this is the username, password, and database that we are going to create for this one. So like if you just duplicate this session and just connect, so MySQL -u root -p, just type show databases. You can see only very few. So information schema, performance schema, and MySQL. But this will create a new database MySQL also. Let's just hit enter. Okay, so this is saying, so this DB has configured properly. So I mean, so new user is created and its password and a new DB. Now if I do show database, I can see SCCM. So this is the new database that is created by this shell script. And if I use SCCM, and if I just use the show tables, so definitely it should show the table, but we need to start this Cloudera Manager server service, then the services will be visible. So we will just use systemctl start Cloudera -scm server. So this is the service that is responsible for Cloudera Manager server, and we will just check the status. It shows as active, but we will wait some time, and also we will enable, so that next reboot onwards the service will be up and running by default. So now if we go back to here and use short tables, you can see these tables are getting created. So this is the table that Cloudera Manager is using. So Cloudera Manager, even though it's a web-based service, and that is having all the features, like it will display everything, but in backend it's using a database, so that is called the SCM. So that is the name we have given here. So if you are giving some other name here for this database, and it will create with that name. So here we have option to customize. So like if I use MySQL -u SCM -p, the password is also SCM, right? So MySQL -u SCM. I think it's not letting us to connect. Maybe we created in a different way. That is fine. But still we can connect with other user and see that. So now we have connected this server service. So next is, so we need to configure the agent. So for each agent, there is a unique configuration file, etc Cloudera scm agent config.ini. In this host, so there is a part called server_host that will pointing to localhost by default. So we need to change it to master one. So this process, so once this is done, we will have to start the agent. Systemctl Cloudera -scm -agent. Okay, so first we will open and edit this file across all the hosts. Open and next host. Open and next host. Sorry. Think yeah, here we need to update it. And server host. So on each and every host, I'm just adding that Cloudera Manager server name. Okay, so this is just the name of the machine where our Cloudera Manager server is running, and here also just add that, so that every host should be able to know where is our Cloudera Manager running. So definitely there is a heartbeat or communication happening in between Cloudera Manager server and agent. So I'll have to start this Cloudera Manager agent on the remaining host. And last one, I can just check the status. Okay. Okay. Now I can just verify. Sorry, I don't have telnet. So yum-y install. So telnet I'm just using for testing purpose. I can just use the telnet localhost 7180. Okay, so this is connecting. That means the Cloudera Manager is running on this port. And also there are logs in backend /var logs /var log and Cloudera -scm server, and you can see You can just make use of this log file and read that properly in case if you have any problem with the service. And now we are good to connect. Get this public IP address again, and from here just use 7180, right? So we are getting the same Cloudera Manager console that we got when we did like the automated installation. So this is nothing but the license agreement. Yes, go ahead and hit yes to accept that, then continue. Like we have option like trial, express or enterprise version. Choose the one which is trial, that is fine. And this is page just tells us okay what are the components it's going to install. Just hit continue, and also worker 123 dot. So this way you can just search and find out. And in that case, either you need a user created with the sudo access enable, or you need a root user detail. And you have that key tab, I mean SSH, or you have SSH private key for that. But if you are doing this manual installation of agent and configuring this agent config.ini file, so you can skip that part and choose that manage host option. In that case, you need not to create any SSH related thing. So no need to create the passwordless SSH or that kind of thing, or no need to create a sudo users. So you can just go ahead and continue. But this is something like you have to manually install the agent component and do the configuration. So in that case, if the agent is properly running, that should show here as in currently managed host. Hit continue to go further, and you can see like what are the different components that we are going to do. The package base and parcel base. The parcel base is recommended one, and selecting the CDH version. And apart from CDH, we have additional parcels like Accumulo, Kafka, Kudo, Scoop, etc. And these are all not selected default, and we can download that parcel. Like in the first case, we just I think it's disconnected. Second. So on the first host, we have downloaded under var www html and sorry, parcels, and this directory, right? So similarly, we can have the parcel directory for Accumulo, and by default, it will be pointing to internet-based parcel repository. For that, we can make changes here. Just hit these more options, and this is the directory where it's pushing the packages. So ultimately, your final installation will be under this location. So if you feel like okay, so you have some more a better place to store this, you can do that. But the same directory, then exactly the same name should be available across all the hosts, right? Otherwise, I'm choosing the default one, so it create this one. And this is also similarly parcel repo directory, where it will push that parcel. First it download from internet-based repository and do that. So here, so CDH51, so this is pointing to internet. I'm just deleting that and uh, adding my own location. Okay, and adding that here. I don't know where. Okay, so it should show, but in our case, the parcels was not showing. I think some sort of configuration we need to do. Let me check that in the documentation. CDH. Okay, CDH5. The reason I'm just telling you here, so under here, if I use this parcels, you can see, but okay. So I think now this is showing. I don't know, earlier it was not displaying, so that is fine. And we used that location, but instead of this public IP, so this private I can use that and add it here. Okay. So instead of internet, so other for and all those things are still pointing to internet. I can do it here or just take it away, right? And I can add some reason, updated cdh local repo, then save this change. Now you can see, so this is, if I do say changes, so this will be there. Like if I just update this and remove the cdh4 or something, then so this won't be there, right? So this is pointing to internet. Like more option will let you to do those edit. So it's all parcel location. Parcels are just a file and manifest JSON file, so that you can configure locally also. So the one we have already configured locally. So all these things default and then continue. And this is downloading. So downloading from the repository location, that is this parcel file will be downloading. But since we have it in the master itself, so it will be downloading from the master and save it into this directory. I think there is a directory called parcel cache, not parcel cache, parcel repo. First it will copy, download it into parcel repo. So parcel repo will be available only on the master. From this parcel repo, it will push into all the host. And okay, once this is done, we will that is in the distribution phase. So downloading phase means from the repository that will download to this directory on the master. Then distributing means it will push that parcel file to all the hosts. Unpacking means that will unzip that, and activating means it will just create a symbolic link to that unzipped one. So now you can see the parcel cache file will be there. So not only here, so if you go to the other master 2 or master 3, think it's all disconnected. /opt cloudera and parcel cache. You can see this one, right? So that is for what happening under distribution phase. Distribution means pushing it into all the hosts, not only this host, on every host it will push, not one, master 1, master 2, master 3, everything. Okay, unpacking means this file dot parcel is in compressed form. So unpacking means it will unzip that parcel. Okay, so this unpacking is happening. So whatever the files will be available will be here. So a last phase, it's just creating a symbolic link. So that is the last phase, activation phase. So that is also completed. So once this is all done, go ahead and hit continue. Then host inspector has detected some issue like a THP. It is not, it's disabled properly. and that is these two warnings are okay. We will go ahead and hit finish to continue, or else what we can do, we can manually execute these steps on all the hosts. It's having issue. I don't know, like etc rc.local has not executed properly. So this file we can just I mean these two lines we can just enter on all the hosts. Just worker 2 and here also just do. So now if I do a refresh again, rerun again, so that error warning message will go away. You can also skip this thing, only there are mismatch version across the system. Okay, that is fine. Java home. Okay, that is fine. Let me finish this setup. And custom services, we have a different option, and I'm just choosing HDFS and yarn service. These two services only I'm selecting. Just hit continue. So this page is very important, and here we will tell on which host we are going to deploy various components. So I just selected HDFS and yarn, but along with that some Cloudera management service also going to install. So we need to properly arrange this, and also before installing we need to have a proper list, so where we are going to install. So the name node that is on the master one, that is fine, and secondary name node I need to have it in another host, that is in master 2. Balancer I'm just adding it into master 2, and worker host I'm just adding it on only on worker 123, I mean data node, right? And Cloudera management service, you can see like service monitor is there, activity monitor is there, host monitor is there, report monitor, event API. So this is all are in activity service monitor. I think it's better to add it on master 3, or else I can add all this Cloudera management service on master 3. That is also a good option because I don't have much components on this one. I can add it on, do it on a report manager. I think we'll do on master 3, and event also on the master 3. Alert publisher also on master 3. So all Cloudera management components I just installed on master 3, and resource manager on master 1, and here you have option to choose, so that is on the workers, right? So we have a selection like so for this we need to know what are the various components, and master components we are assigning to this master hosts, and management services I'm just adding it into Cloudera management services into master 3, and that's it. Hit continue. And
A quick one, really. What if we had a edge node? What we should have chosen here? Nothing.
Nothing, nothing. It doesn't require any services to be added.
But do we still need to keep the part of this cluster installation, that is node?
Yes, yes, yes. Later also we can add that. Okay.
That will install only binaries then. No,
All
no.
no, no, nothing apart from that. Like there is an option called gate to a service.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will be added by default. That we will add another when we do a node addition. So we will try to add a edge host also.
Right.
And
Okay.
here also I'm just going to do an installation, or else I can choose the same database that is there in the master one. Okay, master one I can use, and I have to choose what is the type of database and what is the DB name, username, and password. So I'll be using this one. So MySQL -u root -p, what is the password, and I'm just using create user. What is the username? Should be R manager. R there at percentage identified by password. So what is the password? I'm just using a simple and straightforward password. We can use some complex password. And so create database. That is also just writing as R manager, and grant all privileges on R manager dot start this schema to this user. Okay. So what I did is just created a user and created a DB and grant privileges on that DB to this user. And we will be writing that username and DB name and password here, and just test the connection. Most probably this will fail because of we don't have a JDBC driver installed on that master 3, because it's trying to connect from master 3. Actually, this R manager is running on master 3. So we need, if you see a JDBC driver cannot found, so that means this is okay. So properly saying, okay, the driver is missing on master 3. So go to the master 3 host. Okay. As a simple step, I'm just using yum install MySQL connector Java. So this will install Java driver for that MySQL. Then post that if I do a test connection, it will work, right? So whenever see a JDBC related issue, so make sure you install this driver and then continue. And so here we have options. Like yesterday I was telling about the block size. So this is the default is 128 and failed threshold. So that is the data node directory. So if I want, okay, so dn1, and I'm just adding a few more. Okay, slash dfs dn2. If you have multiple directory, maybe we have a different disk attached. Based on that, we can have multiple. Sometimes in production, we may have 10, 12 disk. Most of the time, the reason is we have multiple thing. So if you have attached a hard disk, so they won't do an LVM or a RAID configured. So they will directly use that hard disk because that is will give you much better performance. So these directories will be created on only on the worker host. In our case, worker 1 to worker 3. And this one, so this name node directory also we can have multiple, but I am not using that. So if you want, you can use that also. Okay. So this helps us to create a multiple location and checkpoint directory and all those things. So these are configurable later also. Go ahead and hit continue.
Sujesh,
Yeah.
still do we need to have the secondary name node because we are in using that version 2, right?
No, version 2 doesn't means like we are not we cannot use, I mean, secondary name node. So secondary name node we will be replay, that is a mandatory component. Like yesterday I said, like, so there is a process called checkpoint. So in order to do the checkpoint, so secondary name node is mandatory one. But this option is in Hadoop 2. So there is an option to that support high availability for name node. So if you enable high availability, then you can have one more name node which is in standby state, and in that case, it can replace this secondary name node. Okay, so I either secondary name node or standby name node is needed. For adding that standby, we need to enable high availability. That we have not yet started. So when we do enable high availability, so that wizard itself will take this secondary name node away. So otherwise, this is mandatory.
So if you have a standby name node, it will do the checkpoint, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
standby name node will do the same function of secondary name node, but it will have an additional function, like in case of any failure, it will automatically become active name node and serve the request. But the secondary name node won't do that. So secondary name node has some limitation. It will only helps to do the checkpoint, but standby will do this function plus high availability also.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
so that we will see in detail when we discuss about the high availability. So that we will be doing in next classes, maybe later. But otherwise, we have that components needed. Okay, now we have built the cluster, and that's the first step. So we need to know which version is this. So go to the main page and cluster one. So the name looks like uh, name itself is not good. So let's change that name. So rename cluster option is there. So training 01 or something. You can rename whatever the name you want to add, right? And here you can see the version of cluster, and below that all the host, and then what are the ecosystem components which are part of this. And here you can see the Cloudera management service. So this Cloudera manager has a lot of other components that will be added as part of this. Plus there are a few more components that we can add. I think we have not added everything. So service monitor, report manager, host monitor, event monitor, alert publisher. So all these components has its own roles and responsibility. And the first thing, like I said, so we should know which version is this, and we can add the service, stop the cluster, and restart the cluster, everything from here. Okay. And also the Cloudera manager version, if somebody asks immediately, okay, go and find out the Cloudera manager, go to the admin, sorry, not to the admin, so go to the support and hit about. So this will give you an information about the Cloudera manager. So what is the Java version it's using, and all those information, and what is the type of license. Here you can see Enterprise Express or Enterprise Trial. And also what are the hosts associated with it. Like, so how many name node, how many worker hosts it have. Just go to on the top, you have a clusters option. And here next you have all host. You can see, so 3 master and 3 workers. And it shows the details, and few more options we can add. I think core option, CDH version, everything, rack version, cluster version, etc. So you can just see all those things here, right? And that is about the host. And so administration is more like we needed. So as an admin, so it has the settings part, alert, e-user, adding a user, security, license, etc. And a backup also there. Like these are the different options. And also here the parcel, just hit that gift icon. You can see what are the parcels configured, and if any new parcels available, that will list here. and not available on. Okay, so this is something like this parcel is not available. That is fine. So you can download and do all those things. That is about the parcels. And this is just an overview how this Cloudera manager looks like. And now we deployed a multi-node, and we did most of the things in a custom way, like Cloudera manager DB we configured manually, and the services we install using install command, and then installed the Cloudera manager agent. So we have not used any of this common account ID to do the installation like that we did earlier, like HD user or HadoopAdmin user with the sudo access. That is not done here. So here we manually installed agent and updated that agent configuration file. Okay, so that's it about the installation. So we will be doing the remaining things on this cluster, like AD integration, installing various components, evaluating, adding various ecosystem components, high availability, security, etc. Okay. So any questions here? Okay, so I'm just going to 58, I think. So if no question, then we will wind up for now, and we'll continue in the next week.
Next week, 7, Miss 4, 5, 5:30.
Yeah, I will do it by 5:30. Is that okay? Yeah.